Hey, this is Jason, and if you're not happy with the sounds of the Alesis Strike Pro, here's how you can do drum replacement in Logic Pro X. Alright, let's take a look at drum replacement in Logic Pro X. So first let's listen to a quick snippet of this song with the snare that was recorded with the Strike Pro. So it sounds okay, but you can hear with the snare, you can hear some of the buzz and the rattle from the traps underneath. I don't know if that's something weird with how I set the custom kit up, but even with a consistent hit, it seems to create kind of a buzzing noise. So let's isolate the snare and listen to a few of those instances. So I wanted something that was more consistent, but I wanted something a little more punchy, something that would cut through, especially in the verses with the acoustic guitar. And so I'll show you how to do the drum replacement in a second, but first let's just listen to the differences here. So much more consistent with the sound, and it suits the song a lot better than the snare that I had recorded. The settings that I used on the Strike Pro are up here on the screen, so you can see what I did to customize the sound. And when you do the drum replacement in Logic, it just creates a second track, second MIDI track, and you can change the samples by going to the EXS24 sampler. So you click on that, and it's going to give you a whole bunch of stuff that you probably don't need to worry about at this point in time. But if we just want to look at the sounds, then we go up to the acoustic snare here, into drums and percussion, single drums into snares, and there's a ton of different ones that you can use here. So it'd be better if they were named. I'm sure you could probably go into the Logic files somewhere and categorize these, or maybe there's something online that they set up to tell you what snares are what. So I just had to cycle through the ones till I found the sound that I wanted. So you can switch them there as well, and you can also switch your kick drums, and you can switch your toms as well. The problem with doing tom replacement with the Strike Pro is it only outputs all of your toms left and right stereo signal. So if you really wanted to do a drum replacement, I suppose you could go ahead and just create 3 or 4 different tracks and then manually copy and paste all the different toms, but that would be a bit of a pain, especially if you've got more of a complex song to work with. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you how easy it is to actually do the replacement. Alright, let's take a look at how to do the drum replacement. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove all of these from the group, so it's just a little bit easier to mute and unmute the original snare and then the one that gets replaced. So this is just a sample drum project that I use to practice recording stuff and testing out some of the new sounds and a bunch of other stuff. So here's what the current snare sounds like, and this was recorded with the Birch Rock kit, which is one of the new kits that came with firmware 1.4. So that's a pretty simple beat, and I also recorded something that's a little more complex to see how Logic will handle that replacement. A quick tip in Logic to zoom in on an audio region is to hit the Z or the Z key, depending on how you want to say it, and whatever you have highlighted, it will center it in the window there, and then you hit it again, and it will go back to normal. So it's pretty easy to toggle back and forth between stuff. So let's take a listen to this here. All right, so the drum replacement is probably not going to handle that very well, because when it replaces the original snare, it's finding all of the transients, and you can see from the little crescendo here at the start, I can capture these by adjusting the threshold that I'll show you in a second, but it's literally just adjusting the velocity of the MIDI note, so it's not going to capture what hitting a snare very lightly is going to sound like. It's just going to be a full blast sounding snare, but with the volume turned down. So let's zoom back out here, and let's do the replacement, and let's see what happens. So you highlight the track that you want to do the replacement for. You can hit Control D on the keyboard, or track, replace, or double drum track. So what this does is the replacement will mute the audio region of the original track, and doubling will leave it unmuted. The threshold is where you can adjust how sensitive the drum replacement will be. So you're able to preview some of the different sounds here, and all of the different acoustic snares aren't labeled with anything that's remotely useful, so you'll just have to go in and preview all of these. I used, in the song that I showed, I used the 5th sample here. So hit OK, and there we go. So it's replaced, so it's now captured all of the transients from that simple beat. I shrink this a little bit, compare these side by side. You can see that it's caught pretty much everything, because this is a simple beat. Let's just take a listen to what this sounds like with the replacement. So pretty simple, but right away the opening flam on the snare was not captured. So it just replaced that with one note. So if I mute the snare, play the beginning again. So if you really want to do that, you can open up the piano roll, so you could add it in the piano roll at the bottom. So let's scroll over and see how well it did with the other track here. So you can see that it's captured a lot of the notes, but it's going to sound quite machine gunny. So it sounds a lot like Popcorn, missed quite a bit, so let's listen to what the original was. So let's hear how it sounds if we blend them together. All right, so I'm going to delete this track, and let's do it again, but let's double the snare instead. So go to track, replace, or double. I'm going to double the snare track, And then for this more complex part, let's close off the library here so I can get a little more screen real estate. What I'm going to do is increase the threshold a little bit and try and only get the full snare hit replaced for some of these. Let's see if I can blend or mix these things together. All right. So first let's isolate the snare, the new one. So yes, obviously it's missing a lot. Let's solo both of these together in here. So you could tinker around with this, and the beginning little intro crescendo here sounds okay with the other snare. So you can tinker around and blend the original sound from the Strike Pro with some MIDI notes underneath and come up with some pretty cool and little interesting effects. But it's pretty simple to do drum replacement, so if you're not happy with the sounds from the Alesis Strike Pro, the ones that are built in with Logic actually sound really good, so I'm going to be using them on some more upcoming songs. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.